This this meditation is going to be dedicated to all of the saints and the teachers that have come before us and have graced this world with their presence and were able to bring down that magic strands of light and be able to distill that energy down into teachings for us. That also, I seem to have a little bit of an echo on my mic. And that also brings us to the seeds that they left behind us for all of us. So in this acknowledgement of them, I'm reminded that this coming Friday, November 1st, is going to be All Saints Day, and that's in part why this subject came up. And the subject is, what is life after death? And when I thought about that, I was reminded about the wheel of life that we are all on, from our birth all the way to our death, and how our teachers and our those great teachers that have made such an impact in our lives and have written books, shared with us their great story, how they have given us this wonderful gift in their passing that their students were able to also record in their time of being with their teachers. These wonderful stories about how they came back to them and in visitations shared with them where they were and what they were experiencing in the afterlife, in the hereafter. And I'm reminded about that Jesus did this with his disciples after he returned. And the famous stories about that in the Bible. And let us also contemplate how this happens throughout our history here on earth with some of our other teachers. And indeed, Yogananda, who was the teacher of Norm Paulsen, and Norm was for those of you who don't know, was the the founder of Sunburst and our little group here. Yogananda writes in his book this experience that he had after with Sri Yukteswar, his teacher, after Sri Yukteswar's passing. And I wanted to read that story in brief, but I wanted to also kind of give ourselves a little bit of context about the time frame and how all of these things tie together. So Yogananda came. He was he was born in India. He grew up there, and over his youth, he found his teacher that he was very close to. That was Sri Yukteswar. And then Sri Yukteswar told him that he needed to go to the West, to the United States, and start talking and giving sermons and disseminating the great truth that the yogis from the East had, and carry that with them, the meditation and the deep philosophies and so on, and introduce all that into the West. He was part of that movement. And he came into the United States, I want to say, at a fairly young age. I don't have that date with me. And then he was here and he was giving lecture tours, and Yogananda had a great many stories to tell about that. He even went up to Alaska. He was at the White House. He was in New York City giving lectures and so on. And he also made it out here into the West Coast, and he started developing a center out here. And right around that time, he received this message from his teacher, from the the great spiritual telegram in his mind that urged him to come back to India and to visit him, because Sri Yukteswar knew that he was close to passing in this life. And so Yogananda made preparations, and he headed back to India in 1935, and he took a car with him, of all things. And in context there, this is 1935. The Model T was designed in 1908, and in 1927, so we're talking about 9 years beforehand, Henry Ford was able to produce about 15 million of these cars already. So it was this age of the production era. Things were moving rapidly, and Yogananda brings this thing on his travels back to India. And he stays in India for some time, and he does these visits, but he also stays with his guru. And at one point, the Kumbh Mela, which is a great spiritual festival that happens in India, was starting to take place, and Yogananda really wanted to go to that festival. And his teacher had hesitations, but he let him go. And while Yogananda was at this festival, he got a telegram from one of the other disciples that Sri Yukteswar had passed away. So Yogananda was absolutely distraught, and he raced back to Puri, where Sri Yukteswar's ashram was, and he just couldn't believe it, that he had missed this thing. And it was a very, I think for Yogananda, it was a very, very traumatic thing that had happened. Like, he probably felt like he really missed the mark on that. And so Sri Yukteswar passed away in March of 1936. And after the funeral and so on, the laying of the body, and Yogananda felt like he needed to go back to do his work in the West, but he was feeling really I guess the best way to describe it was depressed, and he needed the divine and the spiritual energy to come to him and kind of console him. And so while he was getting ready to leave India, he was in Bombay getting ready to leave, and sitting on my bed in Bombay Hotel at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on June 19th of 1936, 1 week after a vision of Krishna, I was roused from my meditation by a beautiful light. Before my open and astonishing eyes, the whole room was transformed into a strange world. The sunlight transmuted into the supernatural splendor. Waves of rapture engulfed me as I beheld the blood form of Sri Yukteswar. My son, Master spoke tenderly, on his face an angelic, bewitching smile. For the first time in my life, I did not kneel at his feet in greeting, but instantly advanced to gather him hungrily in my arms. Moment of moments, the anguish of the past month was toll I counted weightless against the torrents of bliss now descending. My master, beloved of my heart, why did you leave me? I was incoherent in an excess of joy. Why did you let me go to the Kumbh Mela, and how bitterly have I blamed myself for leaving you? I did not want to interfere with your happy anticipation of seeing the pilgrimage spot where I first met my teacher, Babaji. And so it goes on. And in that and state of this presence of Sri Yukteswar coming back and facing Yogananda in the flesh, if we think about what a tremendous power that spiritual being must have had, what a teacher Sri Yukteswar must have been, to be able to materialize from the ethers back, having that will of being able to commune with those particles to manifest his form right in front of Yogananda. I think that is an absolute shocking and just an immense experience. And Sri Yukteswar goes on to tell Yogananda many things in his in that room, and I'm not going to go into that in detail, but he talks about his Sri Yukteswar's where he is at in the astral form, and what kind of beings live there, and how he's also teaching those beings to move on to the next level in their sequence of spirituality. And he tells Yogananda about his mission, to continue his mission here on this dimension, in this earth. And so Yogananda was about 40, 43 when this experience happened, and afterwards he goes back to the United States and really in earnest starts the SRF, a church, and starts to pull in disciples of his own here in California. And now I want to kind of switch a little bit over to Norm's experience. When Norman was about 18 years old, is when he met Yogananda. Norm was at a friend's house and he saw this book, The Autobiography of a Yogi, and he saw that this figure on the cover here and his eyes, Norm had dreams and visions, I guess, of these eyes kind of looking at him in the past, and he like recognized him right away, and he had this feeling like I gotta go see this man. I gotta see what this is all about. And they made up down, I believe it was in Pasadena in the LA area, and connected. And then shortly thereafter, Norm joined the hermitage that Yogananda had established. And Yogananda kept him busy doing all kinds of construction things because he was really good at that, really strong. Norm, by the time the war had ended in 1945, was 16 years old, and he weighed already 220 pounds. He was just basically a bodybuilder of muscle at the time. And way high, he was like 6 foot something, so he's a very tall man. And so Yogananda had him doing all kinds of things like digging a pool, and Norm helped build the Lake Shrine property there at the time, and also in Encinitas at the time of Yogananda's passing in late 1951. They were busy building a restaurant called I think it was called the India Cafe down in Encinitas next to the Encinitas Hermitage at the time. And Yogananda, towards the end of his time there, started spending a lot of time out in the desert. I believe it was around 29 Palms out in the desert east of LA. And Norm would come to visit him once in a while. He would be sent out there for various things that were needed to be attended to, and fixing up like roofs and so on. I wanted to read a little bit about these ending days between their lives. Several times while I was staying at the Encinitas, and this is Norm talking now about Yogananda. Several times while staying at Encinitas, Master allowed me to sleep at the Hermitage Library, and there was never a time when I was near his person that some experience in the spiritual didn't occur. One particular night I was sleeping on the floor of the library while a brilliant flash of gold light surrounded me. And as I laid there trying to comprehend the source, another flash occurred, and it was an incredible bright and a bolt of lightning. About that time, Master Yogananda stood in the doorway. "Big boy, what are you doing?" "Well, sir, I have been seeing these brilliant flashes of gold light with my eyes open or closed. I still see the light." "That's good. What lightning flash glimmers in thy face, mother? Seeing thee I am thrilled through and through." Yogananda was quoting from one of his cosmic chants. "That's Mother Divine looking at you, remember that." And then he turned and he left the room. I spent the rest of the night in half-awake state in meditation, and I knew my Creator was alive and around me. Oh, how much I loved my Divine Mother and Father and the teacher to whom that they had brought me. "I must see you face to face, O Lord, just as Moses did. Reveal thyself to me, I prayed. And so at that time, in 1951, Yogananda really, really wanted to go back to India for one more visit. But as you will see here, that this trip did not take place anymore. One night, Yogananda called me on the house phone. Big boy, I have some sad news. The trip to India is off. The Lord has said, no, if you go to India, you will not come back to Mount Washington. Does this mean, sir, that you will never again go to India? Yes, he replied. I am leaving the body soon. You're what? I felt like I've been struck by a sledgehammer. You mean, sir, that you will be leaving for good? That's right. I have to say no. Have to say no. So he went on to say that he did not know the exact when after I pressed him several more times. And this this was kind of the beginning of this ominous feeling in Norm that things were really changing quickly, and that his time with Yogananda was also coming to an end. And Yogananda at the time wanted some of the young monks, the aspirants, to take this vow of chastity, meaning that they won't be marrying, but that they would stay monks. And it was in the fall of 1951 when he kind of called in everybody to have this ceremony with these young men. And Norm was a part of that group, but he kind of knew, and also within talking with Yogananda, that his path really wasn't going in that direction, that he knew that he would be leaving the monastery. He would be living I guess you would say, a non-monkish life. And so he felt called not to step up at the time to receive that blessing and to become kind of an anointed monk. And he felt very much like he needed to at some point leave, because he felt this weight on him as to what he should do. It was a very, very difficult time for him. And his dad called him back up, and so he went to visit his dad in Lompoc. And while he was away from the self-realization, when he was on his own, he started kind of doing an odd job down in Santa Barbara. He got a job at the telephone company in these few months. And that was when Norm had one of his great experiences with the light, and where the light visited him and took him out of his body. And he had this profound experience where he saw that the universe floating like a jewel in this state of, like, he saw all of creation the way the divine perceives it. And he went back, and he came back into his body, obviously, but he wanted to let Yogananda know about this experience. He wanted to have a connection with him, and so he went back down to the center and tried to contact him, and he was able to get Yogananda on the phone and talk to him about this. Experience. Arriving in Hollywood, I rented a room in the night and decided to drive up to the retreat on Saturday morning. And then I thought better of it and I tried to call. I succeeded in reaching one of his secretaries, who then conveyed Paramahansa any message that I might have. And I was standing in a phone booth near the Self-Realization Fellowship, and then the receiver came over, and it was Yogananda on the phone. "How are you doing, big boy?" "All right, sir. I wanted to tell you what had happened to me." Yes, I know. I am very busy now, but tell me." "May I see you tomorrow?" And he says, there was a long pause, and then I heard a sigh, and then a whisper. "I will be leaving very shortly. March 7th is a big day for me." "But I can't see you tomorrow, sir?" "You must look for me in the spiritual eye. From now on, Divine Mother says the time is short, and she won't allow me to see anyone anymore." And so Yogananda, Morm realizes that Yogananda will be passing on March 7th, and indeed, this does take place. And when when Yogananda does leave, Norm is going back down there, and he does end up participating in the funeral for Yogananda. But he goes back and forth to Santa Barbara, to his little room in Santa Barbara, quite some time. And then about 3 months later, Norm has this experience where Yogananda comes and sees him. I returned to Santa Barbara after the funeral and continue my work at the telephone company. One hot afternoon in June of 1952, I arrived at home in my single-room apartment, and I laid down my head on the bed to relax, to read a book. And then I could feel the wind hit the door, and I looked up to see the beloved figure of Master Yogananda walk into the room, closing the door behind him. And I started to jump up to embrace him, but he motioned to me to be still, and he walked to the foot of my bed and looked down at me. The same lustrous eyes of my childhood visions again met my gaze. And as he stood there, the figure materialized on each side of him. They were floating in the air in the lotus posture, and their only garb was a loincloth. They must be the Himalayan yogis of the Master's childhood vision. I thought he was with them. He was with them as he had desired. They hovered in the air beside him in silence. And it must have been a big relief for Norm to again have that revelation, to have Yogananda come and fulfill his promise to see him after his passing as well, and to give him some instructions as to what he should do with his teachings, and where and what he should start to prepare, which was to start bringing youth together and to build a community of families and start spreading the meditation technique, and to build that treasure trove of souls that would be able to receive the teachings and the Divine Spirit into their hearts. So as we sit here, let's prepare for our meditation. Let us think about how we might be able to honor our teachers, those of us who really helped our spirits awaken, who gave us lessons in life, who helped us remember the seed of the divine within our hearts, and who helped us bring that forth and let it flourish. All the wonderful stories and experiences that our teachers have had helped bring us to this moment, to help us recognize the light within, the incredible power that the Spirit holds, and that this life, this physical illusion, our bodies are but a moment in time. Our souls reach much further than that. That our consciousness here might be awakened to bring that power of the divine into this moment, into this flesh and body, to help transmute and to balance this world of duality. And may we always be open to any experience that we may have. Let us call to our ancestors in the divine, our teachers, those who have gone before, to come here in this moment, to be with us here, and then join with us to bring down the power of Spirit here into the sacred space. let us remember the sheer awe-inspiring experiences that our teachers have relayed to us so that we may hold them and treasure them and help us be guided by them. All those experiences that they shared with us about the light, the hereafter, and then to share with us one of the most private experiences of their teachers coming back to them and their experiences with proving that this physical world are just particles of light that can also be changed and manifested an entirely new body, and then also and then dissolve again back into its ether state. And that we have a relationship and a communion with that. Living